Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is Batman the Black Mirror. Now, The Black Mirror is written by Scott Snyder, who also wrote American Vampire. Now, Batman the Black Mirror is actually considered to be a collection of different Batman stories, but it's not like they're random stories all put together in one collection. They actually all do link with each other, so if you read the whole book all the way through, it seems like it's all just one big story, but it's considered to be a collection of different Batman story arcs, but they're actually all linked with each other, so you can read the whole book all the way through, and it seems like you're reading just one big graphic novel. Now, The Black Mirror, one of the things that makes this book so interesting is Bruce Wayne is no longer Batman in this story. In fact, Bruce Wayne isn't even in the book, because, now, I mentioned in my Batman Year One review that I'm not a big follower of the whole continuity. I just read, like, random different graphic novels, so I don't really follow the whole continuity, so I haven't read any of the Batman comics leading up to this, but at this point, Bruce Wayne is no longer Batman. It actually says in the beginning of the book that he went off to start something called Batman Incorporated, which, since I haven't read any of the Batman comics leading up to this, I don't know too much about that, but basically in this book, Dick Grayson, who was the first Robin, ends up being the new Batman in this comic, which I thought was really interesting, and and the book definitely plays really well into the idea that this really is a different Batman. Like, there's a scene in the book where Batman, who of course is actually Dick Grayson, is talking to Jim Gordon, and after they're done, Jim turns around and then turns back to Batman, and Batman's like, "What?" And Jim Gordon's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just not used to you still being there," because if you know the whole relationship with Batman and Jim Gordon, usually, like, they talk and all of a sudden Batman just disappears, but since this really is a different Batman, and the book doesn't really specify on whether or not Jim Gordon actually knows this is a different Batman. I think he might think it's the same Batman, I'm not sure, but it's definitely interesting seeing really a different person take on the role of Batman in this story. Now, this is a dark freaking comic. Like, this is certainly not a lighthearted Batman story. Like, this is a very dark and serious Batman story, and there are parts in the book which are downright disturbing. Basically the book begins with a story actually called The Black Mirror, and it actually begins where this kid is being bullied, and all of a sudden he transforms into this monster, which actually looks similar to Killer Croc, and you find out that this kid somehow got a hold of something that made him transform into this, and then Dick Grayson, or Batman, starts investigating into this, and it leads him to this underground society that actually collects different memorabilia from some of Gotham City's most notorious criminals, and it turns out that the leader of this underground society is a character who calls himself the Dealer, and it seems like the Dealer is going to be like the main villain of the whole book, but Batman actually ends up defeating him by the end of the first story called The Black Mirror, and then the rest of the stories, and like I said, all the stories in this book connect to each other, so it essentially is all one big story. After that, the story really kind of shifts focus and really starts focusing on Jim Gordon and Barbara Gordon, who of course is now Oracle, and it focuses on Jim Gordon's son and Barbara Gordon's brother, who is also named Jim, and Jim Gordon's son, as it turns out, is completely psychotic, and he ends up being the main villain of the rest of the book, and and his son, is probably one of the creepiest Batman villains I've ever come across in any of the comics. Like, he is really sadistic character, but it's a very it becomes a very personal story for Jim Gordon because you realize that he now has to deal with his own son, who, as it turns out, is a psychopath. But it's a very good comic, The Black Mirror. I would definitely recommend picking this up. Don't be turned off by the whole idea that Bruce Wayne is no longer Batman and it's Dick Grayson who is Batman in this. Don't be turned off by that, because really it is a very good story and I definitely recommend it. So, yeah, that's my review on Batman the Black Mirror by Scott Snyder, and bye.